Plachums!
Hi everyone, it's me, Dan. Today I'm going to go through a quick tier list video on my favorite Souls and Souls-like games. This is a genre that I adore, as some of you may already know. I have, tried to play all the big ones, tried to play all the ones that interested me. So I hope this list has enough Souls-like games on it. There will be a few I've missed, I'm sure, so of course, please let me know if there's ones there I haven't included. I'd love to know more Souls-like games. The other thing is that potentially some of you may have issue with what I've classified as a Souls-like game. I think I'm using a pretty broad brush approach, so there may be some questionable picks here. Some bonus games in there too, of ones I haven't yet played but really want to, or ones that I know that I'm not going to play. So yeah, let's go on this journey together. Tell me what you think in the comments if I'm completely wrong. But yeah, look, let's see and give it a go. Just a quick note, I think I'm going to rank these based on how much fun I had with the game and how much fun I had going for the platinum. So it's not an exact science. I hope I don't change the grading system halfway through. But yeah, let's give it a go. Okay, so first up is Ashen. I think that's a pretty controversial first pick because I did not have fun with Ashen at all. Ashen was a game I thought looked pretty interesting when it was out on Xbox. I was kind of jealous that it wasn't on PlayStation. Then it came over, I played it, and I just did not have fun. I found the world was very, barren, not interesting to explore. I didn't really like the combat in the game. I thought the bosses were not very well designed. It's actually, of all the Souls games I've played on this list, it's actually the only one I haven't gotten the platinum for. I think that there's one trophy that required me to do the whole game again on the harder difficulty, and I really just didn't have it in me. Now I know this game is supposed to be more fun with co-op, but for me, I did not have fun with this game. So I'm going to put it straight into the F tier as the only game I have not platinumed that I started. So yeah, off to a bad start. Sorry, Ashen. Next up is Blasphemous and Blasphemous 2, I suppose. So Blasphemous is probably the other end of the spectrum. I think Blasphemous is an absolutely wonderful game. I think it's so well made. It's so satisfying to play. It brings up an interesting question, however. Where does the line blur between what is a Souls-like versus what is, a traditional Metroidvania, especially when we're looking at the 2D games? I think Blasphemous has enough in it that makes it Souls-like. We've got the Estus Flask alternatives. We've got that combat that's fairly weighty. The bosses are quite Souls-like. There's, some progression system as well. And then there's the Metroidvania elements. I think Blasphemous is going straight into the A tier because I really, really enjoyed this game. The platinum is a lot of fun to get. There's a few missable stuff, but nothing major. And then there's a speed run. The speed run's pretty doable. It's not overly generous, but it's not unachievable. Blasphemous 2, then I actually haven't yet played it. Now it was only released a month or two ago, so I haven't yet picked that one up. But I'm definitely putting that into the likely a banger category. It looks just as good as the first game. So yeah, I'm really excited to play Blasphemous 2. Next up is Bloodborne. What can you say about Bloodborne that hasn't been said a million times? I feel it's definitely one of PlayStation's strongest exclusives, especially made by a third party. Bloodborne is, everything a Souls game needs to be, and it's literally a From Software game. So I think it's a pretty easy S tier. Regarding the platinum, I got the platinum, the week or two it came out. So I remember I think I had to do 3 playthroughs, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's gotten a little bit easier, or maybe just, more optimized since. I replayed the game a few years ago to do the Old Hunters DLC, which I thought just made everything better. But yeah, I think there's some optimizations with the platinum now in terms of, cloud saving to get the multiple endings, plus some power leveling strategies in the Chalice dungeons. So Bloodborne is kind of a must-have platinum, especially in terms of the From Software Souls-like games. But, just in general, I think if you own a PlayStation, you kind of owe it to yourself to play Bloodborne. Chronos is up next. Chronos is the prequel game to the Remnant from the Ashes game. This is a game I haven't played, and it's kind of for, a specific reason. I haven't played this because it doesn't look very good. The reviews weren't super hot for this. Yeah, I have no plans to play Chronos. Maybe I might pick it up if it's like super cheap, or maybe it is free on PS Plus, I'm not sure. But I haven't had much of an interest, given just, the very kind of lukewarm reception that it had. In Chronos's defense, I suppose if it paved the way for the Remnant games, that's pretty cool. So it definitely has that going for it. Code Vein is up next, so it's like anime Souls. I really enjoyed this game. I thought the combat was a lot of fun in it. There's a lot of variety in builds, and I found the levels were pretty interesting. Some of them were kind of bare, but in general I had a good time with this. I had no idea what was happening in the story, but I liked the hub world, and I liked, bringing new people back to it and things like that. The weapons were pretty satisfying to use. Nothing super amazing with Code Vein, but I think it was a decent time. In terms of the platinum, I think it required a few playthroughs for some different endings. I think it was about maybe like 50 hours in total or something, so not crazy long, not crazy difficult either, but a decent time. I'm going to put that one into the C tier to match its name. So next up we have all the Souls games, so the 3 Dark Souls. These are... I don't want to just immediately put them all into S tier, which is kind of my initial reaction when I see them, because, they are Souls games. These are the games that the rest of the games are held to. Dark Souls 1, I think, that's S tier. It's a great game, and it's a great platinum. There's nothing super demanding for the platinum in Dark Souls 1. It's just a really good time. You have to do, 3 playthroughs just to get all the weapons and stuff, but it's not, there isn't a huge grind as there is in some of the other games. So yeah, I'm going to put that in S tier along with Bloodborne. Controversially then, Dark Souls 2 is a game that I absolutely adore. I know a lot of the community aren't as hot on Dark Souls 2, but I think it's just as good as Dark Souls 1 in terms of a game, if not better in a lot of ways. I think they really brought some unique and interesting stuff to the series in that game. I love the world. The hub area of Majula is great. The DLC is fantastic. In terms of getting the platinum, it's definitely a lot more of a grind than Dark Souls 1, especially with the Scholar of the First Sin edition, because they brought in so much more with the DLC. So you needed to finish that to get all the weapons, spells, and rings and stuff. Covenant grinds are a little bit more intense there as well. So for that reason, I'm going to put that into the A tier just for the platinum experience. But if we're just talking about quality, that would be an S tier as well. Dark Souls 3 is really throwing me off. I think I'm going to put that into the S tier as alongside Dark Souls, because I don't remember the Dark Souls 3 grind being as demanding as Dark Souls 2. Maybe that's just because I played it longer ago, possibly. But Dark Souls 3 is just a little bit more refined than Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1, of course. And I just have good memories from getting the platinum in Dark Souls 3. One shame about it is that there never was any Dark Souls 3 DLC trophies. That was a bit disappointing, but the DLC is still amazing. Next up is Dead Cells. I think this pushes the envelope a little bit more as to what's considered a Souls-like, because Dead Cells is already a roguelike and a Metroidvania-like in some ways. There's a lot happening with Dead Cells. I feel like the platinum for Dead Cells was a lot of fun. However, they recently made it a lot easier with like an accessibility assist mode. You can, turn off enemy damage or turn it down really low, and there's, ways that you can make the game a lot easier. So for that reason, I think I'm probably going to put it into the B tier, because I think it's a really, really fantastic game. It just maybe blurs the line as to what could be considered a Souls-like. And then there's the whole issue of the trophies, because I know a lot of the community were very disappointed that the platinum got so much easier. The DLC for Dead Cells is brilliant and seems to be still ongoing. The Castlevania one in particular was a lot of fun, and I look forward to future updates. I think they're still going strong with Dead Cells. Demon Souls up next is, as some of you may know, one of my favorite games of all time. Demon Souls got me into the Souls series. It kind of changed the way I look at games in a big way. I think before Demon Souls, I was probably like an RPG kid. Definitely got into FPSs with Call of Duty 4, but Demon Souls kind of cemented itself as like, oh, okay, this is now my favorite genre of game. So I owe a lot to Demon Souls in that regard, you know, when I played it back in 2009, 2010. In terms of the platinum, this is the game I have platinumed the most on my list. I have all the stacks of it, the PS5 and the various regions of PS3. So I'm very experienced in getting the platinum of this game. However, I'm going to put it into the A tier just based on the confusing world tendency and character tendency system and the Bladestone grind. I've had Bladestone grinds that lasted, 12 hours. I've had it, I've gotten it, within the first 5 minutes. So it's very inconsistent, but, I think that kind of RNG definitely hurts it a little bit. But still, an absolutely amazing game. And Elden Ring is probably the easiest S tier on the list. I feel like Elden Ring is, a lot in the same way that Bloodborne became quite of a staple of the community. You kind of have to platinum Bloodborne, and now you have to platinum Elden Ring. It's staggering to see, how common that platinum is. I think it's up at, 40+% or something on PSNP. It's crazy because, it's not necessarily an easy game. It's probably the easiest Souls game, but that's just due to, the freedom and variety that you have when you can play Elden Ring. So I think Elden Ring, just in how accessible the platinum is and how fun it is and just what an amazing game, makes it probably the easiest S tier on this list. Next up is Hellpoint, and I would say out of all the games on this list, it's probably the game I know the least. And again, that's kind of similar to Chronos. It's a game that I was very put off playing when I saw the reviews and the feedback for it. So, I'm not very experienced in this game. I'm going to put it into the will never play category because I don't have any plans to play this game. However, maybe let me know in the comments if you liked this a lot more than maybe some people did. I just, was never interested in playing this game. Hollow Knight is up next. Hollow Knight, I would put quite close to Blasphemous in terms of quality. I think Hollow Knight and Blasphemous are kind of probably the two pinnacles of modern Metroidvania with Souls-like elements. I think again blurs the line as, is it really a Souls-like? I think there's just definitely Souls-like inspiration in Hollow Knight. I'm going to put Hollow Knight again into the A tier because I feel like it's just such a fantastic game. I know there's a little bit of controversy around the invincibility glitch for doing the Pantheon and things like that, but I still think it's just such a great game. I think everyone should give Hollow Knight a go. Plus, even if you use the invincibility glitch, you still need to play 80% of the game legitimately. So yeah, I think it's a great platinum to have. The Pantheon definitely takes it into a different realm of difficulty if you go that route though. Okay, Jedi Fallen Order up next. I think this is a really interesting one. I think this is a pretty solid game. However, there was a lot that irked me about it. I think particularly the maps. I know that's kind of a tired meme nearly, but the maps really were bad. Especially going for the platinum and trying to pick up those last collectibles and stuff. The map was just absolutely atrocious. The combat didn't really hit the mark for me either. I thought it was okay, but yeah, it just felt a bit floaty, and I don't like when a lightsaber doesn't feel powerful. I think back to the Kyle Katarn Jedi Knight games and just how badass the lightsaber felt in those games. So yeah, I'm gonna put Fallen Order into the C tier just for how much I enjoyed it when I played it, and it certainly didn't inspire me to run out and pick up Jedi Survivor either. I'm probably going to put Jedi Survivor into the likely a banger category just because I know I will play it and I'm sure it's better than the first game. I know they've definitely made some improvements. I know that they added in, fast travel points and things like that. So yeah, I'm sure Jedi Survivor is going to be a lot better, or I'm going to have more fun with that, but I'll probably pick it up when it's on sale. Kena, Bridge of Spirits. This is a really interesting one. I think it was kind of Soul-like. It had Souls-like elements. The combat was kind of Souls-ish. I certainly think the bosses felt like Souls bosses. However, the combat in Kena just did not match up at all. And I found it, some of those boss fights were just not fun because the combat wasn't up to the caliber it needed to be to fight those bosses. I know that sounds maybe a bit silly, but yeah, I think there was like a little bit of a mismatch. Maybe they were a little bit too ambitious with boss designs, because the boss fights were super cool. It's just I never felt like I had enough control of that fight. So yeah, that was my main issue with Kena. I think I really loved the world. I loved the story. It looked absolutely beautiful. And the platinum was fun. Again, it's just that playthrough on the harder difficulty just made things like a little bit more annoying than it needed to be. So yeah, I'm going to put Kena into C as well, just for those reasons. Lies of P looks like an absolute banger. I can't wait to play Lies of P. It looks super polished. I've been watching the speedruns of it, but I haven't picked it up yet because I got Armored Core. I think it looks fantastic. It really would trick you into thinking it was a From Software game. It looks so polished. So yeah, I'm really excited to play Lies of P. It looks amazing. And let me know if you're playing it yourselves. If you've played it, please let me know what you think in the comments, because I'm really looking forward to playing Lies of P. Lords of the Fallen. Okay, maybe my most controversial game on the list. I think Lords of the Fallen is actually pretty good, and I know most people don't. So maybe this is a me problem. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with Lords of the Fallen, and I went in with zero expectations because of how bad everyone said it was. But I thought the combat was solid. I never felt like I died because of the game, and I think that's a really clear mark of what makes a Souls game or a Souls-like game, is when you feel if you die, it's like, okay, well, that was totally my fault because I mistimed it or something. And yeah, I definitely felt that in Lords of the Fallen. I never felt like the game was unfair. To get the platinum, you needed to do 3 playthroughs, if I'm correct, and one with each of the different builds. And I thought they all played differently. They felt good. Definitely, probably my most controversial pick here. But yeah, I'm gonna put that into the B tier. I think if people haven't stopped watching after I put Fallen Order into C tier, they might stop watching now that I've put Lords of the Fallen into B tier, possibly. So, looking at the list, I'm probably going to reshuffle it slightly. I think I'm going to put Code Vein into D. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's the only big change there. Yeah, I think that's fair. I feel like Code Vein is probably not on the same level of Fallen Order or Kena. Okay, next up is Mortal Shell. Mortal Shell is like a bite-sized Souls-like, I would say. It's pretty short, it's sweet, it has some really interesting ideas. I thought Mortal Shell was a lot of fun. It's very like a gritty world. I thought the bosses felt good to fight. It's the kind of game that takes you like 20 hours on your first playthrough, but then you can run through the game in like an hour or two the next time. So I think that's really cool. I liked the DLC a lot as well. I thought the platinum was fairly, manageable. I think there was a good balance of, just story stuff, and then also specific requirements like finishing the game with no shell. So yeah, that was pretty cool. A nice challenge. The DLC made things a lot harder with that kind of roguelite mode. But yeah, really great fun game. I'd recommend it to anyone who really likes Souls games. But it's definitely like a little bit rougher around the edges than, what you might be used to. But still plays great. I'm going to put Mortal Shell into the C tier. Okay, so Neo is, I would say, probably the most polished Souls-like game that I've played. At least one that really tries to capture what a Souls game is from a third party. I think Team Ninja did a really, really good job in, making a game that felt Souls-like, but also had its own identity. So, Neo is a little bit more arcadey, maybe faster paced. But, I think Neo had some really, really great ideas. There are definitely some like valid criticisms of Neo. I think enemy variety is certainly one of them. But I had a really good time with Neo. I thought I liked the loot system, crafting items and things like that. You can make an absolutely ridiculously broken build in this game. So yeah, that's always fun. I'm going to put Neo into the A tier. The Neo Platinum's fairly reasonable as well. There's, collectibles and some challenges with bosses and things like that. It's pretty tricky at times, but I feel it's fairly okay overall. The DLC was a little bit annoying because it made you replay like the entire game for a bronze trophy like twice. So that was a bit frustrating. And definitely some of those double boss battles can be quite punishing. But I think just with how strong the game lets you get, I think that you can definitely get around that. And Neo 2, I think I feel quite similarly about Neo 2. Although, I don't know, I felt like Neo 2 was missing a bit of the heart of Neo 1, for lack of a better description. There definitely was some cool ideas in Neo 2, like, the enemy moves and stuff. I felt like the double boss battles in Neo 2 and some of the kind of special missions were just outright unfair, and you needed to buff yourself with like 50 things before you fought someone. So yeah, I'm going to put Neo 2 into the B tier. I just didn't enjoy it as much as Neo 1. It also felt maybe a little bit stale, having played Neo 1 already. Remnant from the Ashes is a game I really, really enjoyed. Dark Souls with guns. I thought that sounded quite difficult to imagine, but I really enjoyed it. There were some RNG trophies that were like a little bit frustrating, but overall I felt like the platinum was pretty fun in this game. I think they made the RNG better by the time I had played it. So I think maybe people who had played it previously had a rougher time getting the platinum than I did. I like the bosses, I like the different builds, and I really like the DLC that kind of added in a kind of roguelite mode. I thought that was a lot of fun too. I'm going to put Remnant into the B category as well. I think that's a great fun game. Remnant 2, I haven't played it yet. I'm going to put that into the likely a banger category as well. I think this year has been pretty strong for Souls-like games. So yeah, that looks like a lot of fun. It looks a bit easier of a platinum as well, so that's cool. So I'm looking forward to playing Remnant 2. Salt and Sanctuary and Salt and Sacrifice up next. I would say Salt and Sanctuary was one of my favorite Souls-like games. I couldn't believe how close they copied, the traditional Souls game, but then transferred it so well into 2D. So, whereas maybe something like Dead Cells or Hollow Knight or Blasphemous, you could really debate, are they a Souls-like game? I think it's quite indisputable that Salt and Sanctuary is a Souls-like game, even though it's a 2D Metroidvania as well. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun with Salt and Sanctuary. I thought it was definitely one of my favorite games of the genre, and I was really pleasantly surprised with how good it was. I'm going to put that into the A tier. Unfortunately though, Salt and Sacrifice looks not very good. There were some changes in that game that I think were for the worse. I didn't play it yet. I actually have it downloaded. I bought it release day. I never got around to playing it, which is quite rare for me to buy a game and not play it. I don't know am I going to go back and play this game. So I'm going to put it hesitantly in the will never play. I think I definitely could play this game at some point. I don't know, I just feel like it could potentially, taint how much I liked Salt and Sanctuary. Maybe make it retroactively worse. Yeah, let me know if you've played Salt and Sacrifice, if I'm completely wrong. I kind of hope I am. Sekiro feels like another easy S tier here. Sekiro is so different than the other games from Software. I feel like, again, it blurs that line, is it a Souls-like game? Kind of, not really. I know, some people have coined, the Seki Soulsborne ring or whatever. There's a few different ways of saying it. I think Sekiro is just such an innovative game. It really, stands on its own, quite like Bloodborne did. I feel like Sekiro is a real staple of the franchise of the From Software catalog. The platinum is just so much fun as well. I feel like in Sekiro, it was really the epitome of, okay, I messed up there and died, with just, the combat and how tight it was. I think Sekiro kind of stands on its own nearly in that category. Stranger of Paradise is a game that on paper sounds like I should absolutely adore. However, I've played it and I wasn't really sold on it. I'm a big Final Fantasy guy, so the idea of, Souls Final Fantasy game sounded just amazing. But I don't know, maybe it's just all the chaos memes or something, but there was something telling me that I wasn't going to have fun playing Stranger of Paradise. I'm going to put it into the likely a banger place anyway, just because I think if I give it enough time, I am going to really like Stranger of Paradise. I just, I have to kind of be in the mood to play it. Getting close to the end now. Next up we have Tales of Iron. I haven't gotten the platinum for Tales of Iron, but I played it a few months ago on one of my alt accounts just to test it, because I heard it was quite good. I think it probably does quite a lot similar to Salt and Sanctuary in a lot of ways. I think it seems to be a really well made game. I'm gonna just hesitantly put it into the C category. I think that's probably fair for Tales of Iron, but maybe I might revise that when I finish it and come back to it. The Surge is up next. Yeah, The Surge. It's definitely not Ashen level of quality, but I think it's probably a good fit into the E category. I think The Surge is fun-ish. It has some pretty good ideas. Like, I liked the idea of targeting, individual limbs and things like that. That's pretty cool. And like, for the most part, the combat works. There's just some bosses in The Surge that like make no sense, and it's like completely not like anything else in the game. So there's a big disconnect between just the normal levels and then the bosses in this game, I felt. And not in a good way either. Combat was, probably not as tight as I'd like it to be. The DLC wasn't very fun either. Leading on to the next point, The Surge 2, I had absolutely no desire to play that game. Even though I've heard it definitely gets better. It's better than the first game, but I don't know. I don't feel like it's something I'm going to go back and play. Thymesia, I'm not sure how you pronounce this. This is the game I've played most recently on this list. I think this one is quite like Mortal Shell in that it's like a bite-sized game. Very quick. Definitely has some interesting ideas as well. I like being able to steal, say, the enemy's weapons and use them against them. That's quite cool. Combat's fairly tight, even though when I first picked up the controller, I felt like, oh wow, this guy's like on ice skates. He's just skating around the place. But that quickly kind of faded away. I didn't really notice that while I was playing the game. Probably going to put this in the D tier, as I feel it's probably not as good as Mortal Shell. And I'd probably put it on the same tier as Code Vein in terms of how the combat felt. But, I wouldn't dissuade someone from playing this if they're into Souls games. I think it's pretty good for what it did. And the platinum was really easy. There was only one trophy where you had to defeat the tutorial boss. And that was it took me maybe 3 or 4 attempts. Almost at the end here. Wolong is, kind of the next Team Ninja game after Neo 2. I feel like Wolong really flew under the radar. I haven't played it yet. I feel like most people haven't played it either. There seemed to be zero hype around this game. And it's a game that I'm not going to be picking up until it's kind of heavy on sale. So I will play it. I feel like it is going to be a pretty good experience. So I'm going to put it into the likely a banger category because I feel like it couldn't be anything but fun. It just probably had a lot more potential. Okay, so last up, bonus game, Armored Core 6. Is this a Souls-like? No, I think that's pretty clear, pretty fair to say. Armored Core 6 is not a Souls-like game, but I wanted to include it in this list because it is a From Software game, and I feel like they've just added on so much to this game from their experience making the Souls series. I think that's most evident in the boss battles in Armored Core. They feel very Souls-like. The scale and just the way the fights pan out. Obviously the mission structure and things like that are completely different, but there's great build variety. If you have a melee build, there's a lot of stamina management in that as well. I think Armored Core 6 would not be as successful or wouldn't even really feel the same if the Souls games hadn't had such a huge influence on it. But From Software have just really cemented themselves as, one of the industry leaders in terms of quality of game and polish to their games. So yeah, Armored Core definitely shows that, and I think it's a really nice addition. So I'm going to put Armored Core into the A tier. There we have it. That is my tier list. I think there's definitely some controversial picks in there. I've probably, like I said earlier, missed out on some really obvious examples of Souls-like games that I should have included in here. So please let me know as well if I have missed them. These are at least the ones that I've played and finished, bar, you know, the last 2 lines of games that I either plan or don't plan to play. So yeah, please let me know what you think. I think Souls-like games are a lot of fun. I look forward to some of those games that have already released this year. I think it's been a pretty strong year for Souls-like games. And yeah, you know, who knows what the future will bring. So thanks a million for watching and have a lovely day.